some innovators. And there were more than this. This is just all I could fit, and I knew I'd probably start running out of time. So I'll mention a few of these. So the first one I want to mention, because it's been around a long time, is Western Governors University. It was an early innovator. So Western Governors does something different. It doesn't count how much time you've spent learning. It doesn't use the 3 credit hour model. Instead, it uses competency-based model. And by doing that, students can really fly through their courses if they have prior knowledge. So if a student is coming, say, from the military, or coming from the workforce, where they have learned a lot in the field that they're about to go into, they can apply all that prior knowledge to passing their courses really, really quickly. And so by doing that, they're able to get through degrees faster. Of course, the federal government put up roadblocks to them doing this. The accreditor actually approved it, and then the Office of the Inspector General for the Department of Education said that it violated its standards. There was a lawsuit. Eventually, WGU emerged victorious, but nonetheless, regulations tried to put up roadblocks to this innovative model. We also, Purdue University, is creating a large-scale public-private online education partnership with Purdue Global. We also have alternative credentialing with employer backing. That's the Grow with Google. Google offers a wide variety of credentials in kind of the computer science area that it will then use students to hire people. We also have new universities. We've got the University of Boston, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, and the Davies College right here in Wake Forest, North Carolina, which is actually going to try to go without jumping through all the accreditation hoops. So that's a wonderful experiment that I'm excited to see. We also have innovations at existing universities. So I put up a logo here for the School of Civic Life and Leadership at UNC Chapel Hill, which has just gotten off the ground, and it is, teaching students to do civil discourse, to learn about civics, to do all of the things that they should have been getting in their general education curriculum at a university, but they weren't. And we've got similar institutes at universities across the country. We've got one at the University of Florida, at UT Austin, at UT Knoxville, the other UT. And then we've got the original at Arizona State. And then lastly, we've got the Post-Secondary Commission, which is one of those new accreditors that I was mentioning. They are a new accreditor focused on economic mobility. They intend to be entirely free for universities. So universities will not have to pay for this service. And they promise to be a really good fit, not for a Duke University where the students come in from high-income families and leave and go work at a management consulting firm and continue to be high income. This is for universities that take students from middle-income families, low-income families, and then because of the degree they have gotten, they now are able to provide a better income, move up the economic ladder. And so it is entirely outcomes-based, which is not something that our current accreditors are really looking at. So lastly, I will talk about some recommendations for policymakers and institutions. So first, for policymakers, I would say they need to deregulate and modernize accreditation, which is something I've talked about a little bit. But at the state level, I'm going to talk about a market-considered product, which is the Accreditation Choice Act. This is our model legislation that does 3 things. One, it makes state laws conform with the new Betsy DeVos reforms. A lot of states in their regulations, they just wrote the name of the accreditor that they were required to use right into state law. And so now state law has to be changed, so state law no longer says SACS or Higher Learning Commission, or whichever one they were stuck with in the past. It also makes it so accreditors cannot compel universities to violate state law. This is important because a lot of accreditors, especially programmatic accreditors, are demanding that programs do things that are incompatible with state law, things like DEI training. And the third thing it does is to say that universities may not penalize transfer students coming from an accreditor that isn't a formerly regional accreditor. And this matters because, of course, we've got new accreditors on the horizon, but it also matters because some students are transferring into universities from Christian colleges, which are accredited by something called tracks, which is not a formerly regional. And this is a way for universities right now to deny those students credit, even though they've taken classes that ordinarily would transfer over. And so that's the Martin Center's contribution to modernizing accreditation. At the federal level, we hope that they will expedite the approval of these new accreditors. And at another one at the state level is we think that states should make state authorization easier and expedite state authorization. So state authorization is the state giving its stamp of approval in addition to the accreditation stamp of approval. You need both to operate. I also think that the policymakers should incentivize innovation through funding models. So at the state level, they should create performance funding. At the federal level, there should be skin in the game for universities for student loans. And that means that universities should be on the hook for some percentage of student loans that are in default. And this will change the university's incentives. And it will make them much more aware of whether their students are graduating, how their students are performing, whether they're admitting students that really should be there in the first place.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Richard. And then the last one for policymakers is resist the temptation to regulate tech. Is the time, all right. And there we go, conclusion. So now I'll just make, if all this happens, I'll share my vision for higher education. And that is we will get a lot more differentiation. That is my dream. Right now, universities, there's so much sameness. And that is not what happens in a marketplace. In a marketplace, you get all different kinds of things. And so if we free the market in higher education, we will get institutions that I can't predict, but that I hope will meet the needs of students much better than they're doing now. So I'll open it up for questions.
Can you comment about the change in trade schools now? They seem to be coming back very strong with junior colleges moving to trade and then possibly later on, like you mentioned, going to university.
Right, yes. We have seen what, trade schools, vocational education, we've seen it coming back, and it's because of the financial incentives. People are seeing that there is real opportunity in the trades. And part of that is because the baby boomers are retiring, and baby boomers are the ones who are electricians, who are skilled carpenters, who are mechanics. And so there's a real market need for people in those jobs. And so yes, trade schools are reaping the benefits, not evenly across the country, not evenly across schools, but it is happening.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris.
So it seems like there are an increased number of certificate programs, alternative education, especially from top colleges.
Mm-hmm.
So I think every time I go on Instagram, Cornell University tries to get me to do a new certificate, right? Or Harvard University now has one of their schools completely online. It's graduating twice as many people as a normal year. Mm-hmm. Do you think that in doing this, essentially watering down the brand, that it's opening up the market space for other universities to kind of move into that top 10?
I think those top 10 spots are really, really, really sticky. And so I'd like to say that we might see movement up there, but the way that that's measured, through US News, is a lot of it's just all the universities kind of rate each other on how prestigious they are, and they're just in the club together, and it's just not a very good way to measure quality. And so I think that a lot of people know that by doing that, Harvard and the other elites are watering down their brand, but And I don't think it's gonna move that US News ranking. Yes, right here.
Oh, so this is a quick question. Did you seem to be getting that people with associate's degrees make more than those with bachelor's degrees now?
28% of people with associate's degrees make more than the median bachelor's degree.
Oh,
Yes, Ted?
You've given a really good description of the demographic collapse, and that there's gonna be excess capacity in higher education. Who's gonna survive, and what's gonna be their secret?
Okay, perfect. That was on my conclusions guide slide and I skipped it. So I think we're gonna see more larger universities, and I'll give an example from North Carolina. So UNC Chapel Hill is about to expand its enrollment by 5,000 students per year. In the meantime, UNC Nashville, ECU, Elizabeth City State, UNCG are all hemorrhaging students. And that's in the publics. That's in the publics where the tuition is very low. And so I think in the publics, what we're gonna see is we're gonna see mergers, especially in the Northeast and the Midwest, where this demographic decline is old news for them. You know, they already stopped having kids there a long time ago, and people started moving away. And we've started seeing the mergers in New York and Pennsylvania. The other places that are gonna be hard hit are the small, private colleges that don't stand out in any way. Where, you know, if I mention one, you wouldn't know anything about it, you would never have heard of it. You know, it dropped its religious identity, so it doesn't really have anything special to offer that you can't get at the regional public school down the street that costs a quarter of what they're charging. And I think we're gonna see some of the for-profits just come and go. I think there's gonna be a lot of flux in that area. Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. What do you think of the new University of Austin? Have you looked into that much?
I have. I think it's really exciting. I think that it is going to be a huge challenge to keep to their mission, because their mission is extremely ambitious. And, you know,
What is it?
their mission is to have unfettered debate, open inquiry, free speech, and, you know, all ideas are going to be welcomed and debated, and there's going to be civil discourse. And we've seen how hard that is on our college and university campuses. People get captured by orthodoxy. There is a tendency by everyone to vilify people that you don't agree with. And so their mission is extremely ambitious. I love their mission. I think it's great. I think it's very much needed. We've seen entire disciplines captured by orthodoxy. We've seen disciplines where they can't replicate because no one ever questioned the data. That's a real problem in social psychology. And so we need that open inquiry, but it's going to be hard.
But how's accreditation going to play there?
So they're already past their accreditation hurdles.
Oh, they did though?
Yeah, so, I mean, if they haven't gotten to the final, they are on their way. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. They're very well funded. And also their model isn't normal, like, they're measuring 3-hour credits. Like, their mission is very different, but their actual delivery is not.
Yeah, they have like the unspeakable courses where you can
Right.
talk about anything.
Yeah.
Could you just go back and describe what the University of Austin is doing? I don't know.
Right.
That's the first time I've heard it.
Okay, so yes, this
Just
is
kind of get an
it's a
overview.
brand new school. Their president is a former president of St. John's College, which was a Great Books College. And they are going to do undergraduate and graduate studies. They started with graduate, but they're gonna do both. And they will offer a kind of a normal array of majors, but their theme, their guiding light is that no ideas will be off limits. And that is not something we've seen in our legacy universities. You know, they are all in on free speech, they are all in on open inquiry. They say they're not gonna have shout downs. They're gonna invite speakers from, you know, every possible political persuasion to come and talk to their students. They are only gonna hire professors who are dedicated to that mission of open inquiry.
Is it based on a liberal arts
Yes,
type
yes.
of foundation?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, yes, Ed.
Yeah, okay, so part of the problem with innovation is that colleges need to hire qualified faculty. Our Christian schools can't get enough people that, you know, that have PhDs and subscribe to their faith. And, you can't get people to move into, let's say, data science, right, when it becomes a big thing. And so I think that that's really a limit on innovation. What do you think, people, what can we do to kind of surmount those limitations?
Right, so I think one of the things that's going on is these new schools that I mentioned, the School of Civic Life and Leadership, this new school at Arizona State, UT Austin, and all these other places, they envision themselves as pipelines for professors. But of course, they're using the traditional model of, you know, undergraduate, graduate school, you get your PhD, you know, it takes a really long time, and so it's not a fast fix. One of the reasons it is hard to find people to teach is because the accreditation standards say a certain number of your faculty have to have a terminal degree. And so some of these new accreditors say, we don't care what degree you have, we care about the quality of your teaching, then that's a way where Christian colleges especially could get more people in the door faster. Yeah, George.
Jenna, excellent presentation. Both my parents were teachers way back when, and the discipline in the high schools at that level is much better. 2 parents in the household, respect. You are a driver. You are the best. We don't catch you if you fail. I think this is really a foundation starting back in 1st, 2nd grade all the way up, and I think we're going to see a huge movement with Department of Education being demolition yesterday, money going back to the states, and hopefully states unlike Massachusetts, where I was born in Boston, the people rise up against the governor and other people say, we're gonna get rid of the AP programs because you're all gonna be the same. And this is really the root of the foundation. It starts at home, it goes through the grades, and they're not prepared. They can't read, they can't write, and they keep passing the bad pennies along. And until we get there, you can do all the higher education you can, but the kids aren't ready.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the things that I mentioned early on, right? It's students, when they're not going to college, and you ask them why not, some of them say, I'm not emotionally ready or mentally ready or whatever it was, and then I'm not academically prepared. So I think these students, they know it. They know they're not ready, they know they can't do it. They know they haven't been served well by their high school or K-12 education. So there's a lot of work to do in K-12. But I think one place that can help is to also reform schools of education, because that's where the teachers are coming from, right? So we found out recently, I think a really, really great podcast really cracked the story open, that schools of education weren't teaching phonics. They were teaching, you know, whole language instruction, and you wonder why kids can't read. But that is something that states, after they realized it, they started changing it. So the UNC Board of Governors recently, you know, it took them years to actually get the schools of ed to do it. They finally got all their schools of ed in compliance with the science of reading. So I think it's coming. There's an appetite for it. So I'm somewhat encouraged that schools of ed will get, you know, at least marginally better. Things like science and reading better.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
so my question is, do you see a correlation between the elimination of the Federal Department of Education and innovation that will happen in the next year or short term?
No, and that's because most of the activities of the Department of Education have actually been created by Congress. And so I expect that most of the activities will be moved to other departments, which is great. We'll lose some bureaucrats. I'm always in favor of slimming the federal government. But unless Congress changes the regulations that created these programs in the first place, it's just moving around the responsibility. Richard, I saw you had your hand up.
What do you think of ACTA, a group that I think it's called the Association for
American Council of Trustees and Alumni.
Trustee,
Yes.
so trying to organize alums to
Right.
better target their donations?
Yes,
Are they
so I
effective?
think
Are they effective?
ACTA does good work. One of the things they have is the fund for academic renewal, so they actually help donors to put their donations in programs that are good programs. But another group that I'm very bullish on, because I'm part of it, so disclaimer, is the Alumni Free Speech Alliance. And this is entirely alumni run. There are chapters at now like 28, 29 different schools, including UNC Chapel Hill, where I'm involved. And I think that this is really the key. This is the grassroots that has always been missing from higher education reform, because a lot of people don't care about higher education in general. They care about their own alma mater. And so by organizing alumni at each school, it really is so much more motivating. Yes?
Actually, one's very brief, the first one, right off the bat, we were talking about the percentage of kids that can make it through the first 4 years. What was that, and did you break it down and find out what the factors were?
Right, so I think I only presented the after 8 years data, so it's 40% of students never graduate. So after 8 years, they stop measuring, but after 8 years, they have not graduated. And people have studied this, and it's about 30-some% is financial. Another, like 28, 29%, somewhere around there, I'm ballpark, is academic. They could not do it academically. And then for the other remaining people, it's some other factor. Like, they just didn't like it, they socially didn't fit in, they wanted to do something else, kind of a basket of reasons.
And the other one is more of a personal perspective, the resistance against accepting people with prior knowledge was non-credited. I spent 4 years in the Navy in Vietnam, and they accepted at the college I went to many of my instructional courses. And when I sat there in some of the other classes, I was way ahead of them, with all A's. And the other thing is was allowed to test out on several courses. So what's the resistance when you get good education and non-credit? What's the reason?
Right, so military credits, because there is a military transcript, I think universities are kind of used to seeing it that way, right? They look at a transcript, they can interpret a transcript. So military is one of the areas where they have made progress, and as you said, have for a long time been able to take those credits. But I think there are a couple reasons for not taking prior learning. One is just financial, right? You want those students to take the classes on your campus so that you can get that tuition money or that money from the state. And we see that at universities across the country where they say they won't accept AP credits, even if you get a 5. They won't accept CLEP credits. They won't accept certain transfer credits. And so that's just a very, selfishly motivated financial factor. But another one is that university professors, having learned in a certain way and being in this academic environment, are just skeptical of experience subbing in for the academy, because it's just not what they know.
Any more questions today?
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Jenna. Thank you very much, Jenna. Not only is Jenna just about one of the smartest ladies I've met, she's very adaptive. We were originally going to give a talk today on DEI, and she said, you know what, that's not so, that's old news. Let's talk about innovation in higher education. She put that together really quick, and she's just a really conscientious and wonderful person, so thank you so much. I don't know, it looks like we have some new folks here tonight. Would you mind raising your hand so we can acknowledge if you're new? Thank you so much for coming. You're with Thales, correct? Yes. Right. Great. And so we're going to have a really interesting topic next time, right in line with what we're doing. It's Scott Lincecum. He is with Cato. He's a lawyer and an economist. The title is Regulating Prosperity, the Hidden Costs of Economic Restrictions on the U.S. labor market. Very pertinent. In fact, I would say that we really pride ourselves on bringing you pertinent information, which is what we can do when we have super smart people like Jenna who can deliver topics that are really timely and relevant. Be sure that you do register, or be sure that you let your friends know, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.